back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today we are talking about Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. I've been saying Let This Be Your Last Battlefield, which apparently has been misprinted a few times according to Memory Alpha, like that, in that way. So yeah. Welcome, gentlemen. Nice to see you. Nice to see three of you from last night. I see you're all well recovered. Ruben,
What's up? I really resonate with this episode because where I come from, there were people, I should say, with beards on their right sides. It's just gross. So we wiped them out because they were pacifists.
I see. Okay, well, we have no court that can, punish you for your crimes.
These crimes are beyond any.
Yeah.
We're not fit to be your judges.
The full hair up here, he won't understand.
The full beard?
Full beard.
Right. Full beards, yeah, we full beard.
If I wasn't so attached to mine, I'd do the opposite, but I can't. I'm too attached to
it. This is one of those times where I wonder behind the scenes what Janet must be thinking.
Oh, well, she's in Europe. So.
Oh, okay. So
I did send her a picture. She's in France right now? No, somewhere around there, over there. But,
it's not one of those times where she turns around and says, "Oh, send me a picture."
I sent her a picture and I said, "Today's prank," and she's like, "Oh my god!" The good part is that I'll be fully shaved after the show.
Immediate block.
I'll be a no beard.
We have a couple folks already in the audience. Hello, everyone. Cake is Eternals here, and yes, sabotage was said in this episode. I feel like there's a drinking game opportunity somewhere with sabotage, and then all the running. We'll talk about the running.
Oh, yeah,
all I've got to say the only thing I've got to say to Ruben is you better not wake up like that and think, what happened? What happened last night?
Or I just forget, and like 2 days later, I'm like, oh my god, I still have this.
Well, last night was fun, guys. Audience, if you want to share in the fun, go first. Check out Text Trek and listen to their Picard discussion. A really good one. I had fun listening in on that one. And then we celebrated Marcelo's a complete orbit around another complete orbit around the sun with his favorite Star Trek movie, Star Trek 2009. It was a great time. I had a lot of fun, and I feel like the audience was having a lot of fun too. So go check that out. But we're here to talk about Star Trek, the original series. I'm so glad our sub-commander is decloaked today to join us. We got our Dadmiral. We've got our... Wait, I didn't read your handle. Hold on, what does it say?
Chicharron, the left-bearded.
The left-bearded.
I also like the beard I have is black and white. You know?
It is. It's true.
Well, I think. Well, apart from Fathery, that you could say that about the three of us. To be honest.
It's true. And of course, welcome, Fathery. Would any of you gentlemen like to do a brief episode summary for this episode? All right, I'll go ahead.
I'll do it.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Fathery.
Everyone's learned if they're quiet just long enough.
Go ahead,
I've learned never to volunteer.
But yeah, this episode begins with the Enterprise encountering a stolen shuttle, which has been piloted by the fugitive Lokai, who's running from his home planet. And he's a dude who is black on the left side of his body and white on the right side of his body.
Weirdo.
He won't really explain where he's coming from or why he stole the shuttle or what's going on. But then the Enterprise encounters Commissioner Beale.
Yeah.
Beale.
But
or as the actor was calling him, Belly.
Belly, I like that. Commissioner Belly.
Commissioner Belly.
Commissioner Riddler.
He's a Riddler from Batman.
Yeah.
Frank
Gorshin.
Gorshin, yeah.
Gorshin. But anywho, he beams on board and he says, "Yes, this guy is a member of the terrible race on my planet that we have been trying to keep under control, and they're mindless savages. But Lokai is saying, no, we are the oppressed, and you are the oppressor. And please, Captain Kirk, you must help me in my crusade for justice for my people." And these two forces are at extreme odds. But Captain Kirk risks destroying the Enterprise to get them to simmer their asses down, and we have the dramatic self-destruct sequence. But eventually, after some debates about going back to Starbase 4, going to what was the planet they were trying to get to, Arianas, having the Federation courts decide if they can turn over the prisoner Lokai or whatnot. Eventually, though, the Enterprise is brought to their home planet of Charon, where we discover that these warring races had actually, in fact, destroyed their entire world, and Kirk leaves the two of them there, with the only thing that they have left is their hatred for each other, and their world is in ruins.
This episode's a metal song waiting to happen.
It's true. It's true. Yeah.
This is the episode of extremism. Yeah, it's the episode of extremism.
So what did you guys think of this episode? Why don't you go first, Sub-Commander?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've always liked this episode. I mean, the complaint that you always get is that it's heavy-handed or too on the nose, which I suppose it is. But I think it was still pretty daring to try to address the topic of kind of interracial relations in this way. And what's interesting is I was just reading this morning that they only hit on the idea of doing half black and half white makeup very late in the process. It was the director, Judd Taylor, who came up with that. But originally it was going to be one race was going to look like devils and the other race was going to look like angels. And so it was sort of a last minute thing that they did. But yeah, this episode has a lot of good things going for it. I mean, you can't help but love Frank Gorshin's portrayal of Beale. I mean, he really just has a lot of stage presence. And we were talking before the broadcast started about that scene. The self-destruct scene is pretty iconic. It was reimagined or basically repeated for Star Trek 3. Very tense. And just some of the conversation. I think the whammy moment in the whatever room they're in, the redress of the briefing room where they're having a drink, Spock and Kirk and Beale, and Beale reveals the ridiculous cause of all this enmity between the two warring factions, and it's just kind of, I don't know, for me that moment really kind of lands like, really, that's it, that's what this came from. Yeah, I mean, it's a bottle show. I mean, obviously the third season production values have gone down and they can't afford a lot of different stuff to do, but I've always enjoyed it. I've found those tense moments pretty effective. So yeah, I like it. I mean, the costumes that Beale and Lokai wear are a little ridiculous, but apart from that, I enjoy it.
The timescales are impressive too. It's like he's been chasing Lokai for 50,000 years. That's insane.
You can't even wrap your head around that.
It's like crazy that the powers are like interesting and confusing at the same time. Like he can do certain things with his will, and like very interesting concept and people or species, I should say. What about you, Admiral?
Yeah, it's quite scary to think that it is so apt for today. Nothing's changed. That is the scary thing, that we're talking over 50 years later and nothing's changed.
I feel like being on Twitter in a way exemplifies Spock's statement about to expect sense from two mentalities of such extreme viewpoints is not logical. I feel like the way the algorithm works. So, anyways, but carry on. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
But, I mean, okay, it's not so much about race. Well, yes, it is racism still, but it's more about the religious side and everything else.
You said the word earlier. It's more about the extremism of like.
Yeah, it is an episode of extremism.
Any kind of extremism, really.
Yeah, and we seem to have more extremism today than we did back then. Either what we had was the racial thing, which is a terrible, terrible thing. But now, we've got the jihadists, we've got all the it's so scary that to think, we've not moved on. We've not moved on. We've just shuffled the cards a different way. And
it's interesting that humans seem to it appears that humans seem to be doubling down on subjugating because of differences rather than the dream of Star Trek is that humans will start to celebrate differences, right?
And, we should be celebrating it
instead of fearing them, I should say. And so
I see stories coming out of America all the time, and it seems to be regressing with with what's going on about the no gay rule and all these type of things, which is just forming more and more extremism. And who would have thought an episode of what year was this? 68, 69?
68,
well, yeah, especially their initial dialogue when they first meet in sickbay. Some of that stuff is very it's very apt for some of the discussions that are that are going on today. I was very surprised at how on the nose a lot of this stuff looks to be.
But so you're looking at something that's 54 years old, and we can still say today that's happening. I think that's the one bit that really does stick to me on it.
Well, it just sort of proves the point of Kirk's speech at the end of oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the episode, but we're killers, but we're not going to kill today. The fact that human nature has some inherently nasty parts in it, and it's something you always have to fight against. I mean, it's not you're not going to evolve out of it. You're going to have to try to deal with it and try to and try to promote the good and get rid do what you can to prevent the bad from leading. But it's I agree with that. I think there's a lot that can be referred to today in this episode.
I love watch it or I'll think real hard. But it's Day of the Dove. That's the episode.
I thought it was A Taste of Armageddon.
Oh, maybe. Okay.
Yes, that's it. That's the one I was thinking.
Sorry.
We're killers, but we're not going to kill today.
Yeah. Father, I'm surprised you didn't get that one out. I'm just kidding. Father, what do you think of this? You kind of told us a little bit, but what do you think in your summary? But what do you think of this episode overall?
This has always been one that I really liked. I think it's a season 3 highlight. It definitely feels like it does suffer from the budget cuts of season 3. I don't know if I should say suffer, but I mean, it is a bottle show. They just bring on 2 guest stars onto their pre-existing sets, and then to show the planet in ruins at the end, they have to just show some. They're getting like visions of stock footage from probably it's
World War II, according to
World War II, isn't it?
Yeah. World War II Europe.
I thought it was the eugenics wars. Did they?
No. But the I see
Yeah.
what you're saying. Oh, gotcha. You got me.
In the 90s, about 30 years ago.
Right.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if it was from Blitz London. It wouldn't surprise me if that was from London.
Right, or something like that. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
We got a little compliment. Sorry, go ahead, Father.
I was just gonna say that. But yeah, like I always liked the message in here. It always stood out to me as a really powerful message when I watched this as a little kid, and it was one that it was a famous episode that I heard a lot of people talk about. There's like the iconic story about dealing with race and the civil rights movements in the 1960s and putting it on TV. Now when I watch it, I kind of have it seems weirder to me now because I'm thinking of like the historical context of this and how it are they trying to say that like guys like MLK are too radical and stuff, like the people that were actually active in the 60s? And I watch it now and I do kind of sympathize with Lokai a lot more, like with the oppressed dude.
Me too.
I don't know if they should have shown more of his his radicalization, maybe he had lost his way or something. Was he doing terrorist bombings of innocent planets or something like that?
Yeah.
But I also I wouldn't want it to frame the the oppressed dude as particularly villainous. So it is kind of an interesting balancing act. But I think the way that Kirk handles it of like Kirk's perspective and his motivation of trying to be responsible and do the right thing for not just like the Federation but the morally right thing between these two parties. I really enjoy the way that all of Kirk's actions are written here, and kind of the tightrope that Kirk has to balance. The only thing that like really seems too weird to me is when Scotty is like, oh, they're both like equally disgusting. It's like, well, that's kind of like judgmental. I feel like we're missing some of the context here. But the direction by what was his name? Judd
Taylor or
Judd
Tyler?
Taylor?
Taylor, yeah.
Judd Taylor,
who only worked in season 3, if I'm remembering correctly. But he did like a handful of season 3 episodes, including another one I really like, the Cloud Miners, that we'll get to in a few weeks. But he did a really good job with the direction here for the most part. Like, it was just this tight bottle show. So, what are you going to do to like make it interesting, make it engaging? The self-destruct sequence, I've seen this episode so many freaking times. I'm still on the edge of my seat when I watch. Like the tension there.
You guys, I cried. I don't know what was happening to me. I started crying during the self-destruct sequence. It was so emotional.
I don't know.
It was like really weird.
Outside of a couple moments in particular in Deep Space Nine, I don't know if there's like any moment in any Star Trek franchise, any Star Trek show, I mean, that like has like that level of tension where I'm like that, like on the edge of my seat watching it and like that nervous, even though I've seen it like so many times. And I think something like the artsy camera work he does, like it gets a little
zooming in and out really quickly on the red alerts. Yeah, that was I was gonna get I was having seizures or something.
When they're leaving Arianis, and Bill has command of the computer, and like it does like the camera does like that pan across like Sulu, or I don't think Sulu's there, but like Chekhov and Spock and Kirk and Uhura. And it's like, okay, like you can chill. 40 minutes into the episode, you can chill like these fancy shots and stuff. But overall, I love that it's kind of like a precedent for wild camera shots in Star Trek Discovery. If you wanted to use it as like those ship recorders, they're wild. They record things really weird. It's like, but the direction for the most part, really impresses me, and I think it holds up very well today. This is an episode that I like to show people who haven't seen much of the original series. I think this is a good one to show. You get to see, Kirk being very Kirkish, that bluff. I'll just blow up the ship. Then you get to see Scotty, you get to see Spock, McCoy, Uhura, Sulu, Chekhov. Everyone's in this one. I always love when they have like all 7, and it's a good example of Star Trek doing a relevant story, telling these stories in the future, but they're stories about today's world, and it's definitely does that. And yeah, maybe it is a little heavy-handed, but at least for purposes of like showing it as like an example of Star Trek, it's it's very clear cut, it's self-explanatory. You watch this, you get the message, you understand the theme, and so it's.
I mean, the interesting thing, and you kind of touched on it, is that the only thing that's heavy-handed is their choice of the color for the makeup. I mean, if they had done like red and green or something like that, I mean, because how they portray the characters is a little ambiguous. I mean, Beale isn't. They're not. It's not like one is clearly the good guy and one is clearly the bad guy. You're kind of like hearing their spin on whatever happened. You don't really know. And Kirk is, you just said. I mean, he's very good at like, I'm just sticking to the facts here. I don't trust either of you guys. I don't know what happened. But I
like in that scene where Beale's trying to pin him down, and he says, "But surely he stole a shuttlecraft." He's like, "No, he came in a shuttle," like, or something like.
We agree that he's a criminal. The only thing we agreed upon that is that he stole a shuttlecraft.
Yeah, and you almost can't believe anything they're telling you, because like they're so angry at each other. They're just telling you their versions of their truth. So and it's all based on the anger. So like, there's no reality to it. And even though it's heavy-handed, like it's heavy-handed in the way sci-fi should be heavy-handed. You know what I mean? Like it's still doing it through the veil of science fiction, and you can take it as like, I was actually thinking about it earlier when I was watching earlier today, like about maybe because I just finished For All Mankind too, so it's kind of on my brain. But the Russia-U.S. tensions at the time. it's the same thing. We're gonna annihilate each other.
Oh yeah,
eventually.
for sure.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean? If
mutual
if
insured destruction.
and we each have reasons to be angry at each other 100%, right? But like at some point we have to be like, okay, we're both sorry. Now let's move
Yeah.
on, or let's beam down and murder each other. I guess I would have loved to see that fight scene.
I think that scene was done really well as well when Bill is saying about it, and Kirk and Spock are just not getting it. He's saying clearly you can see the difference, and they're going, "No, we can't.
Right,
we just see you're just black on one side, white on the other."
We just hate each other.
Yeah.
And they say, "No, well, he's black on the left side, I'm black on the right side," and
they're all baffled about it. First.
they're all baffled
like,
by
yeah,
it because
it's
they just couldn't get it.
Yeah.
That
Ruben,
was done really well.
Ruben, did
Not
you have
even
any
baffled.
distilled? Did you have any distilled thoughts on this one you wanted to share?
Yeah, I mean, do remember this as always being one of my favorites. I mean, I guess it's one of the iconic ones because of the whole, black white thing. There's a funny joke in that '70s show too with this episode that I always crack up at. No, I mean, from watching again, considering it's a bottle episode, low budget, it's well done. Like, how can you not feel the tension rising with every? I mean, yeah, you can question the weird, vague powers of these people. I don't know what the hell they can. They're just, I don't know. They're like sort of Q-ish, just these hyper technology people. Right?
Well, and it seems like Beale's. Jill was asking earlier, but it seems like Beale has powers, but not Lokai.
Right.
Yeah. So,
That was
or at least Lokai doesn't use them in the same way.
Yeah.
Maybe Lokai's powers are persuasion, and Beale's are his will and forcefulness. Like, I don't know. Maybe that was like something.
Oh, though that even has kind of symbolic stuff to it.
Right. And there's that scene where Lokai is in fact talking to some members of the crew and like sharing and actually I like
he's
what
given
he's
that
saying.
speech before.
Yeah.
He's had that talk before.
No,
Yeah,
and the way
exactly.
they shoot it, if you notice, they eventually go off of him, so you just see the shadow. Where it's like this could be either one of them at this point. Like they're both so far gone that it could be either one of them really talking this up.
Some more of that artsy direction.
Yeah, no, and again, going to what you said earlier, Folly, about the direction. A bottle episode, they said, "Hey, we can have fun with the camera."
Yeah.
I mean, the running scene it could have been done a little differently.
I
But
mean, if you had the budget, you would clearly just show them beam down and be like, "Oh my god, this place is a shithole. There's like craters and smoke and fire everywhere."
Right.
But they couldn't do that. So
the things that's weird, the weird thing to me about the running scene, but I also like it because it's weird, is that they're like posture of running is weird. They're like just tired and they're like kind of almost falling over.
they're so distraught by everything.
But do you realise when Lokai is running, you can see the string. You can see the string that is keeping him from that distance between him and the camera as they're moving. You can actually see the rope.
Okay,
You
cool.
can
I'll have to
actually
check
see
it out.
that. Yeah. I also, when
I
you're
wanna
saying
watch
about
it.
going onto the planet, my vision is Obi-Wan and Anakin in the final fight.
Oh,
It's
like
that
two
type of thing.
ideologies. That's
Two
great 'cause
ideologies. It's
clashing,
that bit,
yeah.
where
It's
Anakin,
like-
it's all your fault. And then there's Obi-Wan saying, no, we were brothers, and all that destruction going on about them. It's that type of thing that
It is.
reminds me.
I thought it's cool in the remaster that the cities were still burning. Like whatever they did on the planet was like you could see that. Like at first I thought, oh, why are there lights? And then I realized, oh, it's like it's like they're like actually.
No light.
I also think the biggest budget cut trick, but I like it, is the invisible ship.
Yes.
like I kind of liked the idea of like the ship was just burning itself out to get him to this point, and by just like chance he made it. Like if it was just like a minute or two behind, the ship would have burned up and we would never have seen Beale. Like that would have been the end of Beale. But that's how obsessed he is with bringing Lokai to his quote unquote justice. Like
It's
is there
funny-
even a little bit of Les Mis going on here with?
I was gonna suggest that, and I've never seen any form of Les Mis. I only know about it because Cisco talks about it in Deep
Yes,
Space
he
Nine
does, it's
when he's chasing Eddington.
Javert and Jean Valjean. Yeah.
But yeah, the idea, because the story there is like a cop obsessed with chasing a criminal who his crime was he just stole a loaf of bread, right?
Right.
But he this cop blows it way out of proportion and is chasing this dude for
Sort
years.
of like Moby Dick too, you know, that kind of obsession.
Yeah.
But not just that, it's like it's kind of like you know, that image of stealing a loaf of bread, being pursued for it, and then it becomes a revolution because now you're being you know, like now you have to hide from the law, and you have to like, and then you start exposing, you know, like
Just
in a
to
way,
eat.
like, you know, in a way it's like if you had forgiven the loaf of bread, maybe you'd have had a friend and a good citizen, you know, like it's the punishment does not seem to fit the crime, and that's something relevant today as well with our very oppressive laws, especially concerning marijuana possession and things like that in this country. So, and I don't know, in other places perhaps as well, but just examples like that. So yeah, I sense a little bit of like whatever Lokai's people's initial crime was, it wasn't, you know, whatever their movement initially was probably not extreme. It was probably just like, hey, we want these things, or I don't think it's fair that
Right.
this is happening, and then it grew from that into, you know,
Was it
this-
worth the destruction?
was it worth not
Yeah.
caving or giving in or compromising, rather, I should say? Yeah, was not compromising worth mutually
Right.
assured discussion, destruction, not and mutually assured discussion is here on this show.
Mutually assured discussion. I think you're going into Picard there.
Daniel asks, has anyone seen Frank Gorshin's early stand-up comedy? I have a DVD of Gorshin doing some of his stand-up stuff on the Ed Sullivan Show in between performances by the Beatles. No, but I understand, and I'm trying to find them, that there are some really funny gag reels or bloopers associated with
doing,
this. With this
doing
episode.
impressions. He was well known as an You can
Yeah.
find clips on YouTube.
I'll
of some
have to look a little
things, but
harder. I kind of just did a cursory.
He was very famous. I
search.
mean, he was like they blew a lot of the budget on his fee to appear. The other actor was not at all well known in comparison to Frank Gorshin, which is part of why they also couldn't do other things. And there was not a lot of extras in this episode at all. But I think it's always interesting when a comedian tries to, or someone who's so well known for their comedy tries to do a dramatic turn, and sometimes it can be
Purely
really
dramatic
effective.
role.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like
There
when you
was
see Robin Williams
funny
do that
here.
in some of his movies, it really works. So yeah, I really love his performance in this. I thought it was great.
I also think this one is, start at season 3, some of the iconic episodes, they use the lack of budget as a positive. You look at Spectre of the Gun, you look at this episode, it's iconic episodes of Star Trek, but they just don't have the budget to pull it off, but they use that as part of the story.
The lack of budget breeds more creativity.
They get imaginative.
Right.
They can't do anything else. You know, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, the cheapest Star Trek movie that will ever be made, ever.
Yeah.
Most people consider it the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I just realized I can do this red alert thing on stream.
That was the only thing that screwed my eyes up when it was going in and out of that red alert. I didn't like that at all.
The red light kind of already gets the job done, guys. Like we don't need the camera moving. We'll pick one.
I think, Fathery, it's interesting, Scotty's reaction, but I also thought it was fitting of Scotty. Scotty tends to have like strong reactions to things, and I think they were trying to express that humans had been so far removed from that kind of behavior that he was just completely disgusted by them.
I
I
would have liked to see more from Dr. McCoy now that I think about it,
Yeah,
because
that's true.
where would McCoy land? Because I think McCoy would have some sympathies, but he would also have like some strong judgments. You know, he would definitely be kind of intolerant of their violence and their hatefulness to each other. But I think he's also such a humanitarian and so compassionate that he would also have like some concern for them as well. So that would have been interesting if they could have explored that a bit more.
Yeah.
It's also
I did like the conversation between McCoy and Spock though. You're saying, oh, they're different, but you're still pumping him with your
Noxious
concoctions,
chemicals. Yeah.
noxious chemicals, and he's going, blood is blood, no matter what colour, whether it's red or you're green or everything. It's just there. So I enjoyed that.
It is interesting that they used him for that exposition, trying to explain um,
The
how
black and
one
white.
could possibly be dual toned. I guess we'll call them, like because we're monotone, so dual tone.
Monotone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
considering how many weird Star Trek aliens we've seen since the original series, it doesn't actually stand out as particularly unusual now watching this. But
yeah.
I
You
guess they,
monotone humans are all alike.
Yeah.
I guess they thought it was
I
such
love
a
that line.
it was such a original
good.
concept. They needed to address it. They needed to address it to the audience. But that what the sub commander was saying, that moment when he says, "Oh well, I'm black on my right side, and Lokai's people are white on their right side." It's like, really, that's such a trivial distinction.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
probably
Spock
don't
almost
even
looks
notice
a little
until
grossed
then.
out
But
by it.
that's to us, isn't it? It's trivial to us, isn't it?
It
To
totally
them,
is, yeah.
Yeah,
But then we're doing it kind of in real time anyway.
we are. Yeah.
Over trivial
Well,
things.
yeah.
Race,
Yeah.
race in real life is,
Yeah.
is a very
it's trivial.
trivial-
Yeah.
like
It's
on
just
a,
I'm
like a
picking it.
genetic level, a black man and an Asian man and a white man and a Latino man on a genetic level, they're all like almost virtually identical. It's just like,
Yeah.
just some slight little aesthetic differences. You might have like some
Yeah.
different color skin or some different color hair, different color eyes, but like
Yeah.
really race is more of a like social
a taught
cultural
like
concept.
a taught
it's-
perspective.
It's all
Yeah,
part of the
like,
same sliders on the grand video game that we're a part of.
Yeah, it's not
Or
really a
customized.
scientific
Right.
distinction at all. It's a very
I think
trivial thing.
Yeah, I think also it's something there. I watched an episode yesterday about colorism, and that pandered to this bit as well. Colorism. I mean, colorism tends to be more black people against black people, Asians against Asians, but you could still see, because obviously with the tones, that sort of was there as well. I found that today, sort of watching it after watching a program about colorism, which I know virtually nothing about.
Yeah, I don't know
to-
anything.
to
I'll have
that
to
one.
look into that as well.
The recent
Yeah, it's
episode of,
it's done by Tan London. Tan London's in Queer Eye. He's the
okay.
Asian guy from Queer Eye, and it's because obviously he's British, so it's a British program, and they talk about colorism, and it's very, very interesting. So I would, if you can get to watch it, I would. It was there, but I got a question for you guys and everything there. What was your reaction to Lokai's reaction to Kirk initially in sickbay? Because to me, I felt he was overreacting to Kirk's questions, because I think maybe because of previous what had happened to him, he was immediately on the defensive. What did you guys think when Kirk just started questioning, like, especially saying you stole the shuttle? He said, I had a need for it, so I used it. I didn't steal it. So what were your reactions to that scene?
Yeah, I thought he was. I mean, he certainly came across as pretty touchy and defensive. I mean, I guess it seems a little over the top, but then again, this is an alien, and you kind of don't know what they're about. But yeah, I think I think what you said is probably the case, that they're trying to make it appear as though he's had a history of being interrogated or something like that. So of course he's going to get his bristles up, at the first sign of being doubted or questioned or judged, I suppose. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting how I really thought it was interesting how Kirk and he were kind of like, even when it's interesting how he treated Beale differently because he had the title of commissioner and the way that he
yes.
arrived. So he was talking to to Lokai very angry and like kind of like, you mister, like that kind of pointing fingers thing. And with the commissioner and that same thing, he would be like he changed his tone and he would be like, well, he would still be like, I'm neutral, but it was interesting that Kirk had the two.
right, he'd speak to him
kinda
more
thing.
formally in a way.
Yeah, it was
But also
Rather
Beale was more diplomatic ultimately. I mean, he did
Right.
try to
Right.
it was
initially,
madness to
and then he loses his
initially.
shit
Well, yeah,
completely.
until he
It's like-
tries to take over the ship, of course. But you could see he's like he's a little conniving, or he's like
You could
trying
see when
to,
the hatred switches, like in that same. That's an awesome scene actually, because at first he's being diplomatic, and when he sees it doesn't work, and and he says,
Yeah.
"You subverting me at every single," like you like all that stuff, and then the hatred in his like.
Yeah.
The way he performed it is just like very powerful
it's just
stuff.
right.
Yeah.
He's only being diplomatic if he thinks it will get him what he wants
Once,
sooner
yeah.
than later. But he's going to get what he wants. That's what
Once,
he,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, it's a cool episode, and I like that you sort of get the sense that the origin of the problem is so stupid. Like, because at this point, 50,000 years later, presumably one side has killed a bunch of the other and vice versa. They have legitimate reasons to not trust each other and to hate each other.
But
at
they
this
haven't
point.
been
But
home
it
in
started.
50,000 years too, which is also wild to me. Like
That's
that
a long
they-
time to
like-
hold a grudge, isn't it? That
like,
really is a long time.
no checking
That's
in,
right,
nothing.
Cupcake.
Like it's crazy. Like they didn't check in. Like they were just so obsessed. It was very. I buy
Yeah.
it, but it's wild.
Single-minded for such a long time,
Yeah,
isn't
losing
it?
That was crazier than the cupcake guy from Star Trek last night. 3 years.
3
waiting
years.
to say cupcake.
This guy
50,000 years.
50,000 years. This is intense, man. This is a real cupcake. This is a real cake, a full cake.
Yeah. Well, maybe he meant 50,000 Sharon years, which is like really 200
dog-
years.
yeah,
in
That's
dog
right.
years.
That is. Doesn't he say? No, he says something like in your time
Oh,
scale.
maybe he
or in your,
does,
he says
yeah.
50,000 of your years. I think is what
Yeah.
he says. To
But
They
They-
probably could have toned that down to make it a
Yeah.
little bit more
Yeah.
believable, but it does, put an exclamation point on the point they were trying to make of the ridiculousness of.
yeah. Of the hyperbolic nature of what.
But
they,
it just,
yeah, like-
the point I was making is that it just, something like that, it can start with something so trivial and meaningless, but then it can snowball and snowball and snowball, and you kind of have to, it becomes its own self-fulfilling thing where, of course you're going to hate someone if they killed your family or if they blew up this building or if they've been oppressed. I mean, all those are reasons to have a conflict, but you get the sense, and you got it from that scene, that this is how it all started, was just because they're black on one side and white on whatever the other side was. And it was that trivial distinction that led to that let everything began, and just snowballed from there.
I like that the crew couldn't really interfere with them, no matter how hard they tried. It had an interesting effect. Like even when they tried to like phaser them or something, they had shield. Like, I know they're all
Yeah.
conveniences or whatever, but at the same time, it forces. It does two things. It's tragic that like this more evolved people, like the citizens of the Federation, can't do anything. They're helpless to change their mindset and stuff like that, and they're forced to be observers of this horror really taking place in front of them. And even Kirk, you could see his frustration in that last
Yeah.
speech, when he's like, come on, like just like there's nothing left. It's like your planet, just stay with us. You can stay with us, you can live with us, like we, and it doesn't, none of it like matters to, I mean, a little bit Lokai, but Lokai's still after his objective, like wanting the asylum and like all these things. Like he's not really trying to get Beale to, they're not trying to like be friends at all, and like
Yeah.
and
No, the hatred's too deep. It's too late. It's too much.
Yeah.
It's too far gone.
Interesting and I love the conversation. I can't keep up with all of it, but I like Watch It or I'll Think Real Hard says there's always going to be an us versus them thing forever, in my opinion, be it race, religion, country, etc. Many seem to require conflict to survive and thrive, but I love that Johnny.
Well, I would
Johnny
say
says here- Oh, go ahead, sorry.
humanity would unite against aliens.
It's
That's like
I mean, let's
the
be real.
opposite of Star Trek. Star Trek,
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'd
it's
be
like-
the
We
we
opposite.
can go
of
and
Star
That's
unite
like-
with aliens.
yeah,
and
we're
do all
supposed
this
to have
great
first
stuff.
contact and like it's like
Yeah, we would have
like-
mowed down the Vulcans when they land. They're like, dude.
Oh,
like,
so we've gone into a mirror darkly now,
Mirror
haven't we?
darkly, yeah.
We're the mirror universe.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sadly, as I get older, I do feel this despair that kind of like, is there no end to this? But I do like this statement by Johnny, which is, I refuse to believe racism, sexism, etc., as we know it, will never end. These things didn't always exist and won't always exist. We just have to do the work that we can.
I mean,
to-
I would say it's like
in our
1% better than it's been 100 years ago. So if it's 1% better, it may take 50,000 Terran years.
But I'm so upset at myself for not remembering her name right now, but there's a teacher and she's a psychologist of some kind, and she's done a lot of work proving that, in particular racism and bigotry, these are taught. And they can.
Yeah, I was exactly what I was going to say. It's really sad that it's learned traits, because if you put young children in a room that are black, white, yellow, all these different colours, they will all get on and they will all play with each other. It's not until adults and everything else that teach them these things that you get all these things, and it's really, really sad that all these things are taught not within us.
Mm-hmm. I think her name is Jane Elliott. Everyone check out the work of Jane Elliott. It is her. That's her, Jane Elliott. And she says basically like prejudice is an emotional commitment to ignorance, and I love that. And I think that's true.
It's probably why the older we get that we despair, and it's the older generation because we continue to learn and we continue to expand, that we see all this and we think, why? We are all at the end of the day, we're all the same. We are all the same, and we should get along. It doesn't matter what colour your skin is. It doesn't matter what your religion is. It doesn't matter what your preferences are. At the end of the day, we're just all human beings. It's the human race. We're not different races. We are the human race. Let's just...
It's interesting.
Here we go. I'm going though. Let's just all get on. That's how it's.
You're ready to be a time refugee and show up on TNG and freeze yourself and get unfrozen on TNG.
Yeah, but that's But this is the older I get, the more I despair that.
Humans are pattern seekers, and when we're young, we see the problems and think, oh, we're going to be the ones that fix it, and you move up. But then when you get older, you kind of see the problems, the pattern of the problems.
Just repeating itself.
And then you kind of be like, oh, I guess is there a way out of that kind of cycle of abuse, of self-abuse?
Exactly.
Is what it is. It's self-abuse because we're going to kill ourselves doing it. You know what I mean? It's like... It's bizarre,
there are certainly
have short lifespans. Sorry, last thing. We also have short lifespans, so it's in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
So it's hard to see it's hard to really organize for long-term planning when you're only 80 years here,
Mm-hmm.
I argue that's another reason shows like Star Trek, I think they give you a mindset of thinking about the future and legacy and how can my actions last and be positive actions that can help change humanity and stuff like that. So yeah, I would say that that's another good reason science fiction like Star Trek is essential, not just a form of entertainment, at least not for me. But I was gonna say that it is interesting that we have been dwelling a little bit on sort of the darkness, but I have to say that I do see younger people moving past it, and maybe it's not necessarily always maybe the pattern I feel has been, and it's frustrating, but it's been one step forward, maybe two steps back, but we still try to take that step forward. And I feel like the younger generation has really been impressing me with their attitudes and their optimism and their willingness to celebrate differences rather than, the more people, maybe it's because I'm surrounded by Trekkies and we were just at a Star Trek convention, but
it's fair to say there's a lot to be optimistic about now. I mean, there's a lot to be terrified of too, especially we were talking about mutually insured destruction earlier, and that's been more of a threat on people's minds now. It's oh yeah, we could have a nuclear World War III is still a very really, likely prospect.
Looming,
but a lot of attitudes have definitely give me reasons to be optimistic, or at least hopeful. I'm hopeful.
I think there's been more breakthrough in the last couple of years than we've had for the last 50 years, probably. But we've still got a long, long way to go.
It's still a long road, to paraphrase a god-awful
to get from
song.
there to here.
Yeah, it's still going to be a long road, but there's reason to hope.
Yeah.
By the way, the story was by Gene L. Kuhn under the name Lee Cronin, so that probably explains why
That
it's so
says
good.
it. That
Yeah,
says it.
says
Why
a
it's, why
lot.
it's such a good episode. Yeah.
Oh, this was like an old one that they pulled out of the desk drawer.
Yeah, apparently it might have been slated for season 1 or season 2. I'm not sure. I read so much information about it.
Lee
I forget.
Cronin in the Satanic
'Cause-
religion means the chosen one.
It does?
No.
Oh my gosh.
No.
That's why he wants to make an angels and demons. And the demons win.
I get it now.
Well, of course, they had plans to do that portrait in black and white script that Roddenberry had written, or like he wrote a story outline to have a planet where there were literally white people enslaved by black people, and it was kind of like a roles reversal thing. But NBC was like, "Oh no, we can't. That's a little too much." So this was what they went with instead. But yeah, I don't know when he wrote it, because he only used that pen name in season 3 because he wasn't supposed to be writing for them anymore.
I kind of wish they would have done it to see what the reaction of audiences would have been, but yeah, at that time it would have been pretty much impossible to get a story like that.
Well, I think if they had done it, I don't think it would ever have got shown. Not for many, many years.
Yeah.
NBC would have put their foot down on that one.
Yeah.
We don't want to, cause any waves. The discussion in the chat is great, by the way.
Great,
There's a
yeah,
lot of-
you guys. I wish I could highlight all of this stuff, but thanks for showing up and having a great discussion in the chat. Anything else about this episode that stood out to you, or anything that you might have a critique about this episode for, guys?
Well, one thing that I can share, just that I remember reading this morning, because I didn't watch it, but I read a little about it, is that part of the reason they had that running scene is they were out of time, or they needed to fill more time in the episode, like they had finished principal shooting, and but they realized they're still a few minutes short, so they padded the last thing they were shooting, the running around scene, just to get those last couple minutes in the can, so it would run 48 minutes or whatever the length was. So that's part of why it goes on. But I'm with you. I think it kind of has a charm of its own in a way. With I mean, yes, how they're running is a little ridiculous to not run into the camera, but yeah, I've never minded it.
Cake is Eternal pointed out earlier about that poor junior officer gets knocked over. The blue shirt gets knocked over, and I noticed he really rolled around, and it's
We also get a different point of view in the transporter room this time as well, because we get it from the back of the transporter room, looking back, and they're looking to the side. So that was a different view in this episode.
Yeah, good point.
We have a couple of comments. The only thing upsetting about this episode is that you'll be discussing the Mark of Gideon next time.
we're nearing the end.
I know.
This is the 10th to last episode of the original series. So
I hear
we're more than halfway through season 3, and season 3 is damn good.
I hear that Doors song in my head. This is the end.
This is
no.
That song would have came out around this time. Huh?
Yes,
This would have been in the late 60s. But then we have more fun with Kirk and the Enterprise crew with the animated series. So I think now that's
true.
Looks like that'll be like late July is when we'll be getting into the animated series.
Yeah, it's true.
Depending on how many delays, how many weeks we take off between now and then, but. Yeah, it's coming up soon. I'm eager and ready for it. I love the animated series.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too.
Me too.
Although I don't know, I'm really enjoying. I'm really sad that. Well, you know what? It is. Someone the other day said maybe Strange New Worlds will get an actual 5-year mission, 5 seasons, and I said, I said, Star Trek did too because it got the animated series. So I count that as the rest of the mission as the rest.
Well, it was to think of it.
To think of it,
yeah. It was touted as the follow-on.
Yeah,
really,
so Star Trek did
original.
have 5 seasons. I'm a 5-year mission. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, it's time to give our ratings and final thoughts on this episode. When I was watching it, I was just completely stunned at how relevant. I share a lot of the sentiments that you guys do. This discussion has been really good too, and especially in the chat, lots of great stuff you guys are talking about. I'm gonna have to give this. I'm gonna share Jill's thing and give it a 10 out of 10. It gets a 10 for me. I just want to say though that I don't know if this is a singular experience, but that self-destruct sequence scene to me was just, I had forgotten how good it was. Like, because I think the last time I'd seen this episode had to have been like maybe 20 plus years ago. Speaking of timescales, and so I've seen Star Trek 3 a lot more than I've seen this episode, and so it was just something with like I was having like a very like Picard moment of memories opening up, and like it just like, like things that I had forgotten, and I was like, wow, like this is so cool. And like Earl Grey Trekkie likes to use this phrase, canon connections, and it happens, it can happen when new shows or new things come out. And so there is something that I'm hoping we get next week in Star Trek Picard that will connect back to this episode, and if it does, it'll be a nice little coup as well. So
Really?
Quick question
curious
before
what
we
that would be.
Oh, you weren't here. So, Kirk, the cancellation of the auto destruct is code 123 continuity. So I'm hoping that.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
there you
Yeah.
go. There you go.
Fair enough.
That's it. I
Okay.
won't say any more for spoilers.
So
yeah.
based on that, as we said, the search for Scott, which was the most tense? Would you say this episode?
Well, the
would you
reason
say
I think I
Search for
started
Spock?
weeping is because this episode made me think that audiences at the time must have been thinking, "Wow, like they're gonna destroy the Enterprise," and then in Star Trek 3, she actually is destroyed.
I
And so
I
it's
think
just
here,
like
the
it's like a-
reactions, like Scott,
Yeah.
James Doohan is amazing in that,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
when, especially like when the camera is like just on his eyes, and like you don't even see his mouth moving. I mean, it's
Yeah.
followed by like a shot of his mouth.
Yeah, those
but,
are
like when
those
it's on
tight
his
shots.
eyes.
Yeah,
And he's like, okay, like this is my duty. I have to like go activate this auto. I don't want to do this. This terrifies the ever loving shit out of me. But it's just all in like his eyes, and just like the way he's speaking, and like the tone of his voice. And yeah, because you see how nervous everyone is, and then like how relieved everyone is, and the way that they go from like the tight close-ups to then like when it does like the push-ins on Sulu and Chekhov. It's just edited. It's shot and edited so well. To just make it's a very
Yeah.
like Alfred
Yeah.
Hitchcock would have been proud.
They
of the way
did,
that
they did a lot
that.
with a little.
Yeah.
and I can't,
Absolutely.
and it just like it enriches the Star Trek 3 scene, like like Scotty having to do it again, Chekhov now having to say one of the code.
But that time, like they knew
sequences,
they were going to
like-
blow it up, but they
Yeah.
knew they weren't going to die. Like
Yeah.
here, they're like, is this
Yeah,
really
I
going to
agree.
happen? And if so, I will be dead. I will
Yeah.
be dead in a few seconds if this really happens.
And it's intense too, how like this character, and you could only he unfortunately could only do it once, because once Beale was wise to it, he disabled the auto destruct. But I love that Kirk was like, no, like the way he was just like, I will destroy this shit. Like you are not going. You are not going to win this. Like this, I will destroy the ship. I don't care. And like, I don't think he was bluffing. I think every captain.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't think he was
impression-
bluffing either.
Yeah.
And everybody would have
Knew
gone with
that.
him. I mean,
Yeah.
no one was gonna
Yeah.
no one was gonna object or back
Yeah,
or
exactly.
lose it or anything. The crew would have
Right.
totally fine.
He was outnumbered.
Yeah, it was brilliant. So 10 out of 10 for me. Actually,
question,
since I give so many 10s, you know what? I'm going to give this an 11 so that it stands out even among the 10s. So there you go. So...
You're giving out of 10. You're giving it a 5 on one side and a 5 on the
Oh,
other.
there you go. There you go.
Yeah, you're giving it a black 5 and a white
White
5
five,
together.
there
I
you
do have one question. And it doesn't really matter in terms. I don't really care, but I'm just curious if I missed something. Do they ever explain how this dude or what ship this guy stole the shuttle from?
Oh,
Starbase
no, I don't-
4.
Oh,
Starbase 4.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because they were
okay.
going to take Lokai back to Starbase 4 to account for his crimes.
Gotcha.
Okay.
There's some pissed off Commodore, like one of my shuttles is missing.
Ruben, why don't you give us your ratings and any final thoughts that you might have?
It's a great episode. I mean, we're 15 episodes into season 3. We got 9 left. Out of those 15 episodes, 13 of them are pretty damn good. Sorry, Spock's brain. But even then, I kind of like Spock's brain. It made me laugh. But the episode's good. It's solid. It's the way, I don't know. It's sort of heavy-handed, but not at the same time, because it just depends on how you're looking at it. Like if it immediately, I know that the black and white immediately kicks off a certain idea, but like there's so many ways to really think about it. Like again, that word extremism. And these just extreme ideas pulling you apart into two different, to the same person but just two faces. You know what I mean? And it's like, It's great. It's a great episode. So I give it a full and lush left beard.
Real quick before we go on to the next person, do any of you guys know this answer to this question? Being in TOS, ensigns and crew members had no chevrons on their sleeves. How did they know who was commissioned below the rank of lieutenant? I don't know the answer.
I don't think
they
there's an
thought of it.
official explanation.
Oh, I see. Daniel says FASA does have something about it, though. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, the
there's a
old
non-canonical answer.
Yeah.
If you want to read that.
Sorry, Ulysses, we don't have an answer for that one. But Ulysses
Didn't
gives
a
us
lot
an
of
8 out
non-commission
10.
wear the jumpsuits as well? Didn't they sort of wear the
yeah,
jumpsuits as
maybe.
well? I don't
But
know.
if you
Different
want to
style of
read
uniform.
the thing that Dan says about the
Yeah, so
from FASA.
according to FASA Star Trek RPG sourcebook, there were different types of stripes and symbols for the shirt cuffs for cadets and enlisted.
Right, we went to like wavy ones and like straight ones and dotted ones.
I think it doesn't. The ranks are just whatever. It doesn't really matter except.
Well,
for
we
rank.
would. I mean, we
I'm
had a
kidding.
bit on Twitter early in the week, didn't we? Adam, about
Oh, yeah.
Lieutenant JG.
Yeah,
As long as, you,
right.
as long as you know who your superior is, you're
Thank you
good.
for that. Yeah.
Nice.
Right.
I would have preferred it if they just kept all of the non-enlisted personnel in those jumpsuit things, then instead of like the normal But there's several instances I think where they call someone an actual uniform crewman, so that wouldn't work.
I feel like you don't see those jumpsuits too much past the first season.
I was just about to say that. Like,
Yeah.
do we even see those though in like these later episodes? Do they even have those anymore?
Yeah. No, I can think of a bunch of episodes that they're in, but they're all like early.
Right.
episodes.
Joel nailed it. It's casual and informal Starfleet ranks. There you go. Like that's what it is. Dadmiral, what are your final thoughts and rating on this episode?
Yeah, I think I've given all my remarks. As I said, it's one of the again. I think this goes to show, as much as season 3 gets panned, I think we're all noticing it's not as bad as everybody else has been saying. It's been, yes, Spock's brain, as Ruben
it's better
said.
than a lot of Next Generation seasons.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you take the first 2 seasons of TNG, it's there. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to give it a 9.5 because it's so pertinent to today still, even after all these years. That's why I'm giving it such a high mark.
Cool.
Excellent. You want to go next, Sub Commander?
Sure. Yeah, I don't really have any final thoughts on it. Although to say that when I don't remember if it was the first time I saw the episode, but I have a memory of watching it as a very young child. Yeah, it must have been the first time. And when Lokai comes off of the shuttle bay hangar and you see just the dark side of his face, my initial reaction was a kid like, wow, the oxygen really was low in that shuttle, like he's starting to like deteriorate or something, his skin is starting to rot or something like that. So I still have that memory, but yeah, no, it's a great show. It's very heavy. It's whether it's heavy-handed, that's up to you, but it's heavy no matter what else. There's not really a comedic moment in it. It's hardly. It's pretty well, maybe one little thing between Spock and McCoy, but it is it's dark, and that ending really hits with do you think that's all they have? No, but it's all they have left, their hate or whatever. So yeah, I guess I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I think some production value stuff or some editing holds it back, but really enjoy this one.
Nice. You just unlocked a memory. I forgot that our parents used this episode as an opportunity to talk about bigotry and race and what we got taught from a young age. Basically not in the same way, but not in the same words exactly, but to celebrate differences, not to be afraid of differences, to be curious and that everyone, we're all, my parents like to use this brotherhood and sisterhood analogy, so we're all brothers and sisters and stuff like that. So,
He's lying. His mom used to call me Marshmallow when I come to the house and be like, oh, look, here comes Marshmallow.
I don't get it, but yes, I'll say yes to why would you be a marshmallow?
Because I'm white.
Oh, I get it. Okay, thank you. Gotcha. You're
Even though
more
I'm-
pink skinned to me, but whatever.
Oh, thank you.
You're pink skinned. Anyways,
Like a
we'll talk about that
newborn.
when we get to Enterprise.
Let me ask one final question about this episode already, because the
I like
ending.
this. Yeah. We can.
The
protract it a
ending.
little,
Do
it's
you
fine.
think they kill each other? Do you think they just
Yeah.
ignore each other, or do you think they
They fall in love.
I was gonna say the same thing. I was gonna say it's a shame
Brokeback
They
they
learned
Karen.
the error
it's a
of
shame
their
because
ways.
they made quite a handsome couple. They would have been cute together. So
Brokeback Karen.
Oh, so what that is, they get so exhausted from fighting that they fall in love.
yes.
They
What
fall
do their
asleep-
kids look like?
No, look,
What
they
do the
fall
kids look
asleep.
like?
They fall asleep and they wake up spooning.
Oh, there you
They're
go.
They're so
This isn't so
exhausted.
bad.
Yeah,
We've never
let's-
touched each other
hey,
this
you
way.
know
It was
what?
always with our shields
Let's have
before.
a kid.
yeah.
We can't, asshole.
Ruben, I feel like there's a spin-off series here, or like some kind of script you're developing.
I'm gonna pitch it to Alex Kurtzman.
To Alex Kurtzman.
Brokeback Charon.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
And in answer to Sub Commander, it would be squares. You'd have one there, one there.
Oh hey, wasn't there on Voyage? No, on TNG. No, he had like checkerboard face, I think, or something like that. But yeah, there was something like that on.
Are you
TNG
talking about
or
the
Voyager.
hologram thing from?
I think so. Like so.
When Alexander was hanging out with
Yeah.
Waxana.
Yeah. So there have been other.
Oh, in the mud bath.
Yeah.
Who ate his world or whatever.
Father, you take us out.
Sure. Well, I said, I think this is one of the most iconic episodes. I think it's a good example of the original series. There's actually some stuff. I think the message does resonate today, but there maybe like the framing of some of it might seem like a little dated, a little stuck in 1968 mentality. But that's also kind of a way to showcase the original series as very much a product of its time in a lot of good ways. Not sometimes we say that as like a derogatory thing, but it can show some value as well. I would like to give this episode a rating of 50,000 years out of 000 destruct 0.
That's an excellent rating. Folks, go check out these wonderful guys. Ian, tell us what is going on. Hold on. On the Dadmiral_UK channel.
Do you know the one thing I love about that animation is, if you know me, you know that animation is me.
Yes, it's true.
If anybody doesn't, they think it's somebody else. But if you know me, Steve, who did that art, is Steve Illustrates. You all know him. You think you all follow him.
SCE underscore or just SCE Illustrates?
STE underscore. But he's got two.
Yeah.
He's got two accounts now. But yeah, he did that for me. But yeah,
Brilliant artist.
Yeah.
He's on Instagram too. So if you follow him on Instagram,
yeah,
that'd be cool.
follow Steve if you find if you don't know where to find him, drop me a DM me and I'll point you in the right
guide
direction.
you. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, or any of us, to be honest. I think we all follow him.
Yeah.
Instagram, Twitter. Yesterday I posted my last memory from the Star Trek cruise, which was the museum, which you guys, well, obviously Father he knows because he was there. A lot that was in there was actually in Mission Chicago as well. So that was that one. I've got some editing to do of a couple of videos, but I am back doing Lego builds again now. So that's what it is coming through. But I do like to say that, as many people said on Twitter, I do have my own fan set badge now.
Right.
If you could do that, it blurs. But yeah, I have it there. Even though everybody kept saying to me on Twitter, "Oh, it's you," which it was. It's Odette Freya. But yeah, that's my own badge. You're on mute, so
I understand you're also developing some interesting Captain Pike looks that are going to be coming. Is
well, yeah, the hair's
hair,
sort of growing a bit.
hair for it.
So yeah, I will shave the beard for it.
Well, you can do
The
both
beard.
because there's a couple of scenes where he's got a beard, so you can kind of like
there
Well,
you
yeah, I could do it one day, have the long hair and the beard, and then come back with the bit and shaven, and be a bit upset when I'm looking at the Enterprise on shuttle Stamets. But yeah.
the episode that's having the red carpet premiere in New York
It's today
right now.
in New York,
It's,
yeah.
it's going
Today,
on now,
yeah.
isn't it?
It's going on at 5. It starts at 5 or 6, I think. 6 is the
So
premiere
in like
time.
an hour or two, it'll.
I was
Yeah.
gonna surprise y'all from there, but I ended up staying home. But
Yeah.
I was gonna be there. I was really excited about it. But to everyone who is there, I saw lots of familiar faces from Star Trek Chicago posting that they're attending. So to everyone in there, have an amazing time.
Well, if it's anything like the, because I was at the London Picard premiere a couple of years ago, and that was it was freaking cold because it was sort of like February, but it was an amazing time because the whole cast was there. So yeah, that was good.
But we
and I
won't
think
have to
in
wait
answer,
long. There's only 5 days, right? Or
well, for you.
Oh,
you,
sorry,
it's
yeah, it's
5
true.
days.
well,
For the
I
rest
have a-
of the world, we've got to wait freaking months.
That's right.
officially everywhere else. You have to wait months.
Yeah.
It's true.
We still have Latin America, the Nordics, I think Australia, New Zealand, India. That's a lot of countries that are getting it. But yeah, unfortunately, the UK is not one of
The
them.
UK's not? What?
I think
Yeah.
they're punishing the UK for all the complaints. No, just kidding.
Well,
just kidding.
well, it's not just the UK; it's Europe as well.
Fine.
Don't.
I found this,
Not
like,
Northern
German guy.
Europe. Not Northern Europe though.
You
Like,
guys seen
in-
like this German guy who does Star Trek?
What's that?
These
Huh?
2 German guys that talk about Star Trek. I found them randomly because now since I go and like your videos and stuff, I'm constantly suggesting all these crazy Star Trek channels.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, let me see what this guy says about Picard episode 6. And it's these 2 German guys drinking beer, and they're like, yeah, so Picard, first they go and they beam, and it's a terrible German accent, but like it's just 2 German guys. I can't remember the name of the channel. I'll have to look up in my history.
Yeah,
But
find
I
it-
found
find
all
it
these
for us. I'd
weird
like to see it, yeah.
European channels that are covering Star Trek.
But in Norway and Sweden and Finland and Denmark, they have Paramount Plus now.
They have
Oh.
Paramount Plus, but I don't think they've actually said that it's going to be on it, have they? Because I think
I'm
the
not
only
sure.
ones that I know of is America, Canada, India, Australia, and I think New Zealand. I think those are the only 5. I think the most frustrating. Sorry for prattling on. I think the most frustrating thing is the lack of information that's coming out of Paramount Plus. To turn around and say we're getting Paramount Plus in the UK and Europe in the summer. Well, for fuck's sake, summer's what month? Narrow it down a little bit so we have something to look forward to. But just to say the summer is pretty. Whatever. I think it's going to be called the Pike. Looking.
But is it
Spike-
called a quaff in real
Spike-
life? Is that what it's really called? Like a quaff?
It's a bit like a whatever, yeah. But yeah, I think going back, that's I think that's the bit that I've been banging on about is just give us some information, because that's all we want. If they can give us some information, I mean, we've waited months for Prodigy, and now we've got it on Nickelodeon channel. But again, that was still very quiet. I think Paramount Plus are brilliant at making the rest of the world feel like second-class citizens. My honest opinion.
We say that those Doctor Who fans from years ago, we used to say the same thing about the BBC.
Except
But yeah,
People want to watch Star Trek right now.
Right-
No one
right now,
wants
yeah.
to
I
watch
think-
Doctor
And
Who.
think
right
and
now.
I think
I have to believe that in all seriousness, in all genuineness, that the people making the show want that, Ian. I think that
Yeah, I
there's
think they
just a
do.
lot of,
Yeah,
I think there's just like
it's
a lot
it's
of
the higher
like,
ups. It's
well,
the
no,
higher
I think
ups
it's not
that are
even
doing
them. I think it's just legal things. Like I don't even think it's I think everyone wants the show to be everywhere at the same time if it's possible. But for whatever reason, because of streaming rights, legal things,
taking a
things
long
that you know who might be able to explain it. I think she's baffled by it too. But if you guys check out I Quit Star Trek podcast, Olivia, she's a lawyer and she's really she does a lot of cool posts that are like very irreverent, but she also sometimes gets into like the nitty gritty of the legalities, and a lot of what she says makes sense to me. I think
It's not a legal issue right now though. It's just the
they're just
they're not ready to
Europe,
expand Paramount Plus for
Yeah.
infrastructural reasons on the back end. I think it's more of a
Yeah.
I think they're spending the money slowly to expand that.
I think with social media being so prevalent now, I think that's what everybody on my side of the pond is worried about. We don't want too many
You don't want spoilers, yeah.
But unfortunately, that's the nature of the beast with social media, and I think that's the really the sad thing for us, that everything that's coming out this week has been fantastic. The new opening credit scene, everything has been great. But it's sort of, as I put the analogy, it's like somebody going, "Do you want a drink?" Psych. It's that sort of analogy, and I think that's what's frustrating. Not just myself, but there's an awful lot of people in the UK, in Europe, and everywhere else are seriously frustrated by it all.
It is sad. There's nothing we can do about it, but hopefully someone's listening to this and maybe they'll.
Yeah, it sucks that
something.
people are just expected to be patient and just wait. But
Yeah.
we will get there eventually. In another year or two, every new Star Trek show will just all be on Paramount Plus, and everyone in the world will have Paramount Plus, and we'll all watch it at the same time every week.
Yeah, we tried to watch Star Trek 2009 on Paramount Plus. It's not there. So there's still things. There's little kinks that they have to get out of. We do have to go, but Sub Commander, I'm curious. I understood that you were flirting with the idea of getting Paramount Plus to watch Strange New Worlds. Have you decided, or are you going to check it out? Are you going to check out the show?
I haven't done anything yet.
Okay.
But no, I'm thinking about it. I mean, I think I'm very committed to doing the animated series with you guys. That's my
Awesome.
main motivation. To
You
get
could probably
either-
watch it on Pluto TV. They put all the Star Trek on there. It just has commercials.
Oh, okay.
Okay, interesting.
And you can't pause it. You can. It's only like if it's on. It's like
Yeah,
it's like
live
old-fashioned
TV.
TV.
It's like old
Old-fashioned TV. If you watch
Alright.
it when it's on, it's there, but you can't.
But
pause
it's on
it.
there all the time, and they repeat it. There's a whole like
Pluto
Star Trek
TV.
channel on there.
Pluto.tv.
Oh, cool.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, there's a channel that shows like TNG or DH9. Like
It's owned by
non-stop all
Paramount.
day, like.
Well, as my
Pluto is
mentor,
actually owned by Paramount.
as my mentor, Mr. Spock,
Right.
likes to say, there's always possibilities.
That's right.
Indeed. Put that out there for anyone who doesn't want to get Paramount.
Everyone check out Sub Commander Tall on Twitter. He's a fun guy to follow, and also he has a Mr. Leslie Stan account, so go check that out as well. I don't know if it's a Stan account, but it's a fun account. And then Ruben, you can be found as R Martian on Twitter. And what have you anything else you want to promote?
Yeah, I recently posted an article with a cinematographer. I got an article with a composer coming out, Philip White. The cinematographer was Cristiano Rejano, who did Night's End on Shudder, which is another horror streaming service for horror fans out there. And yeah, Philip White did the recent Medea Homecoming movie on Netflix, but he's also done a ton of other stuff. But we talk a lot about Medea.
Yeah, you were really excited about Medea yesterday.
I love
thought that was
Tyler.
fun.
I love
It's
yeah.
true.
I love Tyler Perry. He's one of my heroes.
That's awesome. Very cool. Oh, and by the way, if you guys want to hang out with Sub Commander on Twitter, he'll be decloaking, if I'm not mistaken, tonight for TOS Saturday night. So follow that
Gonna
hashtag.
try,
Yeah, he's gonna try. So yeah, go check that out. Father, tell us what's going on Text Trek.
Of course, I would love to. Everyone should check out the Text Trek live shows we do on YouTube every Friday night at 7 p.m. Central. We do a live podcast talking about that week's episode of Star Trek. If there's no new Star Trek, we talk about old Star Trek, but there's new Star Trek all the time now, living in this modern golden age. So just last night, we did a stream on the latest episode of Star Trek Picard, Season 2, and then next week, really big week for us. We're going to be talking about the Picard Season 2 finale, as well as the Strange New World series premiere. That's going to be Friday at 7 p.m. Central. You can always listen to our show as a podcast wherever you get your podcast, but please subscribe to the YouTube. We're trying to get to 800 subs before Strange New Worlds. I think we're at 789 right now, so trying to get 11 more this week.
I mean, I already have 750 accounts, so I'm doing.
Well, if you could sub all those to Text Trek, that'd be really appreciated. But
Hey,
yeah,
hey,
we also appreciate the.
Give us some of those 702 that are no, but they're carrying. We are trying to get
people
Text
who
Trek
listen
to
to us
1,000.
as well.
Yeah.
So Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, wherever you can find us, and a lot of people choose to engage that way. But the cool thing about YouTube is I do some additional streams that aren't part of the podcast series. So I'm actually thinking about Thursday on Cinco de Mayo. I'm going to be grilling up some fajitas, and I'm thinking about doing a little like Text Trek cooking show, some outdoor grilling down in Texas. I'm inviting people over. Our friend Rachel, I think Brian and Dave from Text Trek will be there, and Yeah, we're actually having a little watch party for Picard and Strange New Worlds on Cinco. It's gonna be Tex-Mex themed because Cinco de Mayo. So yeah, we're
That's
gonna be drinking
rad.
some cervezas and eating some fajitas, and yeah, it should be a lot of fun. So if people want to see that, let me know. Leave a comment here and say if you want to see me do a live stream from grilling in the backyard, just drinking some beer and talking about Star Trek while I'm cooking.
I say yes to that. I vote yes 100% to a live stream barbecue. That sounds cool. And then folks,
we don't call that barbecue in Texas. The
Oh, sorry.
barbecue is only like if barbecue, like
a
if
grill.
you're making like
a grill.
yeah,
right?
I'm grilling. It's not
Okay,
like
it's a grill.
people outside of Texas think everything you cook on a grill is barbecue. That's wrong. Like to me, barbecue is like brisket or ribs or pulled
Excellent.
pork.
Okay. Fine.
Like barbecue is like smoking. It's like when you're smoking meat. If you're just throwing something on some charcoal, then that's grilling. That ain't barbecuing.
I will refrain from my funny comment. But anyway, we'll save that one for the After Dark. Speaking of After Dark, so Starfleet Boy fun starts on Friday nights right after Text Trek. We do something called Starfleet Boy After Dark. It starts on Thursdays. We do a Twitter Spaces event. This last one was super fun. So many folks showed up, and so many folks came on stage and talked about the latest episode of Star Trek Picard. Lots of great revelations and heavy discussion, and also lighthearted discussion. All the discussions were happening, so you can check that out if you're on Twitter. It happens at 9 p.m. Eastern time on Thursdays, right after the same night as the episode dropping.
Mutually assured discussions. That's what
Mutually
happens.
assured discussions are happening.
Discussions.
It's true.
That's brilliant.
I love it. It's really
There's the
brilliant.
tagline for your spaces now.
Yeah, it's true. And so next week, of course, we'll be covering. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a long space because we'll be doing. It'll be a Picard space, which Ian coined that term, as well as a Strange New space, which will be the new title of it going forward. And then we also have on Fridays, as I said, TQIF, starting off with Marcelo doing his videos for TOS, as well as Fathery doing our the Text Trek stream, and then we have Starfleet Boy After Dark. Last night we did a watch along, so it's kind of a show that doesn't have a format. We do different things, but mostly we just talk about all the geeky stuff that is on TV. So right now, next week, I imagine we'll be also talking about Moon Knight and Halo as well. I think both those series are ending pretty soon. I think either their finales are next week or something like that. Saturdays we do these TOS discussions. Thank you so much for everyone coming in here. When these end, we'll be doing the animated series, and then on Sundays we do our latest and greatest Star Trek discussion, which is very similar to this format, and that is on
Sunday.
Right now it'll be Picard and Strange New Worlds this coming Sunday. Well, this coming Sunday we're doing Picard, and then the following will be Picard and Strange New Worlds. So tune in for all the fun. We're starting the cycle again after tomorrow. I love doing this, and I love just hanging out with you guys. Thank you. Guys, Follow just posted a link to Text Trek. Please subscribe. And also, if you're not subscribed to this channel, please hit the subscribe button and smash the like button. Don't just press it, smash that like button, because it confounds the algorithm, and I love to do that to the YouTube algorithm.
Do you know, it just dawned on me that this morning, your last night was actually my first Starfleet Boy After Dark.
Oh yeah, that was
in the after dark in the morning.
Yeah,
in the morning, as you said it, when we did that, it was getting light for me, and now we've done this. It's got dark.
I would love to do
You should do a morning show called After Dark in the Morning.
I would love to do a Regis and Kathy Lee style morning show called Good Morning Starfleet Boy or something like that.
Do YouTube audience members like wake up and watch YouTube early in the morning? I don't know anyone who streams
YouTube's worldwide. It's worldwide.
Yeah, we've had a couple of
it's
times
morning all the time.
There's been folks saying they're having their breakfast while watching us, and
yeah,
stuff
I
like
watch
that,
YouTube almost all day.
Yeah, if you're
while I'm working.
if you're like in Hawaii,
Australia.
it's like 10 in the morning right now, right?
Yeah,
So
That's true.
Yeah, well, you think when you're doing After Dark, you've got Australia and New Zealand. They're
already tomorrow. They're like
they're already they're
sorry,
in Saturday.
We're after
Saturday,
dark another day.
yeah, it's like it's probably like
you
2
could
in
do
the morning.
Starfleet Boy in
Sunday
the
over
future
in the
for them.
future. It's true.
That could be just for the Australian audience.
All right. You guys
Starfleet Boy in the future.
live long and prosper, everybody, and we will see you next time.